In today's video, we are going to use procedural generation to create a scene. This means that we create a random landscape with code instead of a fixed scene with the editor. In this way, the gamer can get a unique experience in a game that's always a bit different. As a bonus, we can create huge scenes without taking up a lot of space. Without further ado, let's get started. As always, we start by creating a new project. Let's now start to add some content. I found this low poly road pack and we're gonna add it to our project. We need to convert this material to URP because we created a URP project. Okay, so we have the prefabs over here of this low poly pack, and they still show a pink, but we've converted them already, so we can use them. I've dragged some of these into the scene. You can see them over here. What we now could do is write some code to use these prefabs and to create roads out of them. But that's gonna be quite complicated because they all have different sizes, as you can see, and we would need to write code to connect these two elements exactly at this spot. So we needed to store the positions of all the roads and also the sizes of the roads because they are different sizes. This road has 4 lanes, but this one only has 2. So we can't connect this one to that one directly. So that's gonna be quite complicated. But what we can do is create some planes over here. Let's make them a bit bigger. And then we can just drag these elements onto the planes and create an element, and we can use those elements to create the whole scene. What we need to do then is let's resize this a little bit again to fit this this part. I think this is the biggest part of road that we have. So we could use this section, and then we could just copy the plane and create another section and make sure that this section can be connected to this one. So this one has a low road over here and a high road over here and over here. So all the squares will have that as well. Then we can easily use those squares to create the landscape. I'm gonna create a new folder over here. Let's call it road pieces. And in here we can create some prefabs. So for example, this one, this plane together with this highway cross freeway. Gonna drag it into here. So now we have this element and we can drag it into this folder to create the first prefab. And then we can create more prefabs like that by using the other elements. And if we have a set of those prefabs, we can construct random landscapes out of that. So it's gonna take some time to create some of these elements, so I'll do that now and I'll report back to you later after I'm done. Okay, so now I've created 6 tiles, 6 different tiles, but they can all be connected together on all sides because they all have a low road on this side and this side, and a high road on these sides. So we can use these 6 tiles to create a continuously looking road in all directions, and we can even, for more variation, rotate this tile by 180 degrees. So this is like a little bit of variant of the same tile from a different rotation. We can't use 90 degrees, however, because we have a low road on these sides and a high road on the other side. So we have only 2 options for rotation with this tile. Of course, if you would use more different type of tiles with other connections on the sides, then you could create much more variation, but that would also mean that you need to mark them what type they are, and that only one type can connect to another type, so that gives a lot of complications. So for now, let's stick with this simple approach, and let's write a script to create a grid of these tiles. And when we move around in our world, this grid also needs to change. So we need to have, like for example, a grid like this. And then if we move in that direction, we need to add some tiles at that position and remove some at that position. So let's create this folder for the scripts first. And here I'm going to write a script. Let's call it Road Generator. And we will also add this script to the scene. There's going to be only one instance of this script, and it will generate the roads for us. So we can already instantiate it inside our scene. So create a script folder here as well. And then add a game object, and let's call it Road Generator. And over here we can add the Road Generator script. Now for the script to generate the world, it's going to be a little bit complicated, so it's best to visualize it. I made this drawing. This is the current area of the field that you can see on the screen. So the camera is over here, and this is the part that you will see. So we need to have these tiles available. But as soon as we move forward, these tiles will come out of view, and these tiles are visible. So we need to generate these tiles, and we need to dispose of these tiles as soon as we move forward. If we move to the left or to the right, tiles on this part should be created and on this part should be deleted, and vice versa. So to keep track of the tiles that we are currently using, we use a buffer. We use a 2-dimensional array because we have a fixed size buffer over here, and we will replace elements in the buffer as soon as we move forward. We will remove these, and we will also destroy the game objects that that they are pointing to, and then we will create new prefabs over here on the screen, and at the same time store them in the buffer. Because we don't want to keep moving things inside this buffer all the time, we keep track of the current position of the buffer X and Y, and then we know where to start from to draw all the elements and to know where we can find them in the buffer. So for example, if the buffer is currently over here and this is the start of the screen, then this square maps to this square, and this square maps to this square, and this square maps to this square. So this buffer just rolls over to the other side as soon as you run out of cells over here. You just go to this one. So that way we can we don't need to move things around in the buffer, but we'll just use the pointer and move the pointer position as soon as we move forward in this screen. This is what the road generator script finally looks like. So we have the cell size, that's the size of one road piece in world coordinates. And then we have the grid X and Z size. That's the amount of cells, the amount of road pieces that we have in the vertical and the horizontal direction. Here we have the prefabs that we will use. So we have those 6 prefabs that I created. Here is the buffer that we will use to store the elements that are currently on the screen. Then first we need to initialize the grid, so all the positions of the road pieces that we will show. We will generate 100 pieces, 10 and 10, and we have this method called create grid piece, which we can use to create a new grid piece. Then we will also destroy the existing grid piece. We will remove it from the buffer, and then we will put a new grid piece in the buffer and instantiate it as a prefab on the screen. Also, we will at random rotate the road piece by 180 degrees to make a bit more variation. And this is the update script where we check what's the current position of the camera, and if the camera has moved to another grid, then we need to remove the old line and create a new line. So that's a different function for the forward and backward and left and right, although they are quite similar. You can see the code over here. We just use different X and Y and increase and decrease. So that's it. So now let's see if it works. In order to test it, I will remove these existing pieces. We will start with an empty screen. So our scene is very clean over here. And over here we have the road generator script. We still need to add the prefabs to the script, so it can use them to generate the road pieces. So let's lock this and let's add all the road pieces. Can just drag them over here, and now we can run the application. Okay, it seems to work. You can see that the terrain has been generated. Only at the moment we can't move the camera yet. Alright, so I've added the input system and created this input actions map, where we have a few actions that we can perform with the camera. And I've attached this input action map to the camera, and also a script that's over here that will process the movements and make the camera move forward and backward. So let's see what it looks like now. We can move the camera around, we can look up and down if we want, and you can see that it's working. Let's put the scene and the actual game next to each other. If I now zoom out, you can see very clearly what's happening when we move the camera around. You can see that the scene is being generated on the fly, and it appears that we have an endless large world, but in reality we are just creating parts of the world as soon as we are entering a certain area. So this is cool. So now let's take it a step further, and let's also generate some stuff on the landscape. For the landscape, we're also going to use some predefined 3D models. I've downloaded this low poly pack for some different buildings, and also this one for the trees. And finally, this one we will also use later on to create some cars in our scene. So you can download them for free from TurboSquid, and then we will add them to the application. The first thing we need to do now is to make sure that our downloaded models fit into the road pieces. So let's take a road piece, put it in the scene, let's put it at 0 position, and now let's also open one of the trees and put it in the scene, put it onto the road piece. We see now that this tree is a bit too small, so we need to scale it. Let's make it 3 times larger. This looks better, but you can see that the textures are not showing up yet, so we need to extract the textures. And you can see that it starts to look like a tree, but the textures should be transparent. So let's also extract the materials, and now let's edit the leaf material. Let's make sure that the texture is transparent. And we can also set alpha clipping. Now I think the tree looks good like this. So we need to do that for all the trees that we will use in our generation script. And the same goes for the buildings. Procedural generation is always a combination of some random stuff and some predefined stuff. So in this case we are going to create some objects at random positions on this grid, but they can't be completely random because we don't want to spawn these trees on the road, for example. So what we could do is detect whether there is a road nearby and then decide not to spawn the object at that position. But that will cost a lot of time, and we need to be very efficient with this procedural generation, because we need to generate quite some stuff in a short time, so the player will not notice it. So the best thing in my case now, I've decided that I can just specify these areas that we are able to spawn on, and then we will use those areas and just spawn in that position. That we can do that much faster than detecting if we can spawn it every time. So therefore I have added yet another script, road piece. It just contains some values, the land areas. It's a vector 4. So we are going to add this script to all the road pieces. So I'm opening a road piece, and I will add a component and add the road piece script over here. And then we can just add these values. We can add new elements. So I would say that this road piece, for example, has 4 land areas. I will just mark them now with a plane, but we can remove that plane afterwards. So something like this. This is the area that we can spawn trees and buildings in without conflicting with the road. So, and then we'll have another three places where we can spawn stuff. So now we're just storing the left top and the right bottom location of these areas, and I will use that in the script to spawn only in this area. Over here you can see the position of the X and the Z values of these corners. So we took this position and that position, and then I've saved that as variables in that road piece script. Now let's see how we generated the landscape after that. So we have a certain margin between all the objects, so that 2 trees won't spawn exactly next to each other. Every object has a space of 10 for itself, and then we run through all the areas that we've defined, and in each section of that area we spawn something at random. We also can control the amount of likeliness that something will spawn at that position, so we can control if there are more or less objects spawned. This is the function to add the random object, one of the objects from the list of objects that we have here. So if we now go to the scene, you can see that I've added a landscape generator over here, and I've added some of the trees and the buildings to it, so they will be spawned at those positions. Over here you can see the result of our new landscape generator. It has added buildings and trees at random positions. You could also give a random rotation to the buildings, but I think for a city it looks more nice if they are all lined up together. So it really starts to look like a nice scene already. I've also added a skybox and a bit of reflection to those buildings. So one final thing that we will add is some cars onto the roads, and then we have a nicely generated landscape. Once again, we could create a very advanced script to spawn cars in every position on these roads, but for now I've used a simpler approach. There are just a certain type of road pieces that cars can spawn in this direction, but that's not always the case. So for example, in this on this road piece, we could spawn the cars in the high position, in the horizontal position, and lower in the vertical position over here. So therefore these two checkboxes are ticked. But if you take a look at this road, for example, it only can spawn cars over here, because if it would spawn cars in this road piece, some cars would be underneath this ramp, so that's not good. So this one can only spawn cars in a horizontal position, because otherwise cars would be spawned over here. So we only take a full road where we can spawn cars, either yes or no. And then we have this this car generator script over here, just like the landscape generator script. I've added all the prefabs of the low poly models that are downloaded. And if you take a look at the script itself, it's very similar to the landscape generator script. We have a likeliness that we will spawn the object and a list of cars, and then we check if the road has vertical cars and if it has horizontal cars, and if so, then we spawn them randomly. They all have a certain amount of space that they can spawn in, and they are distributed randomly over that space. So they have their own space, so they won't overlap, but because they are spawned at a random position within their space, they are still looking kind of randomly placed. The landscapes and the cars are both generated as soon as the new piece of road is generated. So we just have a reference to those two scripts within this road generator script, and we use that to call the add random landscape and add car methods. So this is what the randomly generated scene looks like. We got cars at certain positions, we got buildings, and we got all roads connected to each other. You can see what I mean with the spawning of cars. So this piece, there can't be any cars spawned because we don't follow these curved lines. We just put cars in straight lines where we are able to do that. But even so, it looks already quite nice, like a real scene. That concludes our brief tour in procedural generation. We've seen that creating a detailed random landscape can become quite complicated. However, if you make some shortcuts, you can already generate a good looking scene quite quickly. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, and see you soon.